Magic is the power of influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. The word supernatural is an adjective meaning attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding, or relating to an order of existence beyond the visible observable universe. Scientism has become the dominant worldview in this matrix, one that says only scientific claims are meaningful. The word science comes from the Latin sciens, meaning intelligent, skilled. Sciens ultimately comes from the word scindere, which is a verb that means to tear or to cut, to divide. So science, the basis of scientism, is really an effort to divide us, to cut off our connection with right-brained principles. The left brain and right brain express different principles. The left brain is responsible for what science upholds: analytical thinking, order, and fragmentation. The right brain is responsible for creativity, compassion, and intuition. Scientism goes against the right-brained feminine principles by advocating an overuse of left-brained ones, and therefore it attempts to divide us. There is much beyond scientific understanding, and much beyond the visible, observable universe. When we stop observing the world only with our left brains and incorporate our right, we discover that these supernatural forces in the definition of magic are simply natural forces. Nothing is purely physical. Everything has a vibration and a consequence. Every thought we think, action we perform, and word we speak directly affects the outcome of our reality and the collective's. So whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, we are all magicians. Magic is really the power of influencing reality. There are magical practices that involve the use of various elements, incense, oils, salt, but the basis of all of them is our inherent creative abilities and our use of thoughts, feelings, and words to manifest. White magic is benevolent, using our intent and powers of manifestation for healing purposes. Black magic is malevolent, using our intent and powers of manifestation for selfish or malicious purposes. The elite who run this world are generational dark occultists who constantly evoke entities and use curses, performing black magic in our everyday lives to further lead us into spiritual chaos. The civilization we're in has been shaped by the elite's black magic workings, which are vampiric in nature. And because we've agreed to many of their operations, most of us are consistently engaging in what I call everyday black magic rituals. One everyday black magic ritual is the consumption of animal flesh and fluids. What's going on right now is an ongoing animal holocaust. When we cage up animals in factories, we deny them an outlet to express their emotions and fulfill their destinies. They can't run around, relate to each other freely, and explore the world as they would like to. They can't do much of anything. Animals raised in slaughterhouses spend their lives in crippling anxiety, depression, and fear. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, and these energies stay within the flesh even after the animal is killed. So when we consume meat, we are absorbing these negative energies, their fear, their grief, and their confusion. The same goes for milk products. Even though the animal was not killed in the process, they still feel pain and sadness from being caged up and having their children kidnapped, a standard practice in animal agriculture. Our earth and sun powers all life on this plane. They infuse everything with life force, what some call prana. All life is tied to the ground in some way. Carnivores can only receive and digest this prana through consuming other animals, but those animals received their life force from the ground. We, however, are not carnivores. This is why we are not naturally attracted to raw meat, and this is why when we eat products with animal cholesterol, our risk for atherosclerosis goes up. Atherosclerosis only affects herbivores, and we don't even fit the definition of an omnivore. Humans are totally incapable of killing, tearing, and consuming raw prey with their natural biological equipment, as all natural omnivores do. Outside of a slaughterhouse, you can just hear the distressing cries being released. Again, meat eating instills these negative energies within us, contributing to much of humanity's feuds and division. Not to mention, most conventional meat is physically poisoned with growth hormones, vaccinations, and GMO livestock feed. A person with a meat-heavy diet tends to have blocked energies within their body, since it becomes a storehouse for these energetic poisons. This is why many religions and spiritual schools throughout the ages have taught vegetarianism and veganism. Jainism is based on the principle of non-violence called ahimsa. Vegetarianism is considered mandatory for all of its practitioners. Jains prefer food that inflict the least amount of violence. It's also an integral part of many schools of Hinduism, with 34% of Hindus eating a strict vegetarian diet. Many Buddhists also observe vegetarianism, as instructed by the first precept. The first precept prohibits Buddhists from killing in general, and this includes people and animals. The Brahmanet Sutra, a text of Mahayana Buddhism, also prohibits eating meat. A disciple of the Buddha must not deliberately eat meat. He should not eat the flesh of any sentient being. The meat eater forfeits the seed of great compassion, severs the seed of the Buddha nature. Many followers of Sikhism follow and promote a vegetarian diet. Seventh-day Adventists strictly practice vegetarianism and many practice veganism. One of the main precepts in Zoroastrianism is respect and kindness toward all living things. In the sayings of Adarbad Maraspandan, the scripture states, "Abstain rigorously from eating the flesh of kine and all beneficent animals." It's no coincidence there has been so much alignment with spiritual growth and abstaining from flesh eating. Every time you buy a piece of meat from the supermarket, you're agreeing to the ritualistic enslavement and suffering of sentient beings. You are a sentient being. And the same way we agree to the imprisonment of animals when we purchase animal products, we also agree to the imprisonment of ourselves. Authority, which I'll expand on later in this video, is an illusion. Posing as having authority over another sentient being will always result in discord and suffering. When suffering is being done on a ritualistic scale, it's felt in the collective. While we can't eliminate suffering, we can reduce it as much as we can, starting with releasing our unjust authority over our animal brethren. Even farm-raised, grass-fed, and free-range animal products, while energetically better, still contain this control-based consciousness. So when we look into a restaurant or at a nice dinner patio, many of us are unknowingly witnessing a black magic ritual that started with suffering and ends with that energy being transferred to the consumer, changing his or her natural energy by muddying it with fear, aggression, and confusion. Control is the same consciousness the elite aim to inflict on all of us. This new heart-centered paradigm is not going to be built by the same mechanisms of control that this matrix is built on. We must let things flow. We must lead by example and stand for things, not standing against them. This doesn't mean disagreement is wrong. You can disagree with something, like I disagree with the ritual abuse of animals. But once it's taking energy from you, disagreement becomes toxic opposition. What else is heavily promoted? Toxic food. The foods marketed to us are of course full of toxic animal products with fear-based frequencies, but also chemical additives, over-processed ingredients, and unnatural forms of sugar and salt. The body and mind are directly connected. Consuming these heavily commercialized foods is violating the body as much as it is the mind. If it's being pushed on us, it's for spiritual defilement. But to the untrained eye, it goes unnoticed. Much of this defilement is simply a part of what we call modern civilization. The emphasis in education is to think solely with our brains. But what about our hearts? The heart actually functions as a type of second brain. When we feel through our hearts, we become more in tune with ourselves and our true intelligence. We've all heard the phrases, think with your heart and follow your heart. When we say, get to the heart of the matter, we mean get to the essence. The heart allows us to feel what is best at an internal level, connecting us to our intuition. The word heart is an anagram for the word earth. This is no coincidence. When we truly connect with our hearts, then we will ultimately connect with earth. Home is where the heart is. The heart is not simply a mechanical organ. It generates the strongest electromagnetic field out of any organ in the body. Our soul resides in our heart. This is what this electromagnetic field is, the electrical outpour of our soul. This is why it's the first organ to develop and function in a fetus. The spiritual teacher Srila Prabhupada sums this up perfectly. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The black magic rituals of consuming animal products and drinking alcohol over time damage the heart. This is proof that these practices dull the connection and processing of information between these avatars and our higher selves.